Sister, this dance is the long-lost pillar-grinding prayer to heaven. I'm just dancing. To please the emperor. Wrong. This is the pillar-grinding prayer to heaven. It's to ward off national disasters. I'm not. If you aren't praying for blessings, then you're disrupting the peace of the harem. You'll be drowned in a pig cage. I'll pray. I'll pray. Keep the music playing. Keep dancing. Your Majesty, General Jiang has conspired with the enemy. The evidence is irrefutable.
I'm illiterate.
This correspondence is thousands of words long. Do you really think I could write this? Furthermore, this paper is only found within the palace. How dare you frame a loyal official? I am the most arrogant and domineering noble consort in the palace. Born into a family of generals, I live a life of absolute decadence. In the Great Liang harem, the Empress Dowager and the Empress have long since turned to Buddhism, ignoring worldly affairs. The other concubines are all respectful and submissive to me. Life was going too smoothly. Every day was spent either counting money or listening to music. There wasn't a single ripple of excitement. That's when a clueless girl from the future showed up. Sister, how can you eat such filthy things? No wonder you're so vulgar. Unlike me, being of a celestial body, I only drink celestial dew, untouched by the mortal world. Instead of getting angry, I actually clapped my hands and gave her a stunning smile. So, sister is actually a goddess descended from the 9 heavens. Truly different from us mere mortals. Pass on my verbal command. Starting today, the Emerald Palace shall be a place of fasting and purity. Within a 500-meter radius, no meat or grease shall be allowed. Are you kidding me? I'm the reigning champion of palace intrigue. I'm a professional at killing with kindness. When Sun Yenshu, this time traveler who popped out from some random corner of the world, stood before me pretending to be a saint, I was actually thrilled. Life without palace drama is just too boring. Finally, someone has arrived to entertain me. Sun Yenshu wore a white dress so plain she looked like she was at a funeral. She had 2 dead twigs stuck in her hair, calling it natural forest style. Emperor Xiao Yuran sat beside her, looking completely mesmerized. Noble consort, sister. Sun Yenshu acted all affected, pinching her throat to speak in a high-pitched voice. This meal of yours has bear paws and birds' nests. How many lives had to be taken for this? It's just too cruel. She covered her nose, looking completely disgusted. I am a fairy descended from the heavens. I carry a unique fragrance, and cannot bear these vulgar, meaty things. Usually, I only drink the first drop of morning dew, and eat the most tender flower petals. Xiao Yuran chimed in. Nianshu is the purest woman I've ever met. Noble consort, you should learn from her. I put down the braised pig's trotter in my hand, and looked at her with a half-smile. Oh. Only drinking dew? Only eating petals? Sun Yenshu lifted her chin proudly. Mortal food would pollute my spiritual energy. Fine. I slapped the table, making Xiao Yuran flinch. Since sister is a goddess from the 9 heavens, we must protect her well. As the head of the concubines, I must lead by example. I immediately turned to the head eunuch Wang. Pass on my verbal command. Starting today, remove the private kitchen from the Emerald Palace. Take away all food and drink. Since concubine Su is so compassionate, take all the furs, silks, and ox-horn combs in her palace and throw them all out. Replace them with things made of bark and wood. If the imperial kitchen dares to send even a grain of rice, I will hold them personally responsible. Sun Yenshu's face stiffened. Her eyes darted around, but she forced herself to maintain her persona. Thank you for your kindness, noble consort sister. This is exactly what I wanted. Xiao Yuran was still there, feeling touched. Though the noble consort is short-tempered, she really is quite considerate of Nianshu. Considerate? I sneered. I'll show you right now what a feudal society beatdown feels like. Not only did I cut off her food, I also sent 20 strong nannies to squat on the walls of the Emerald Palace day and night. If they saw a bird fly by, they'd immediately shoot it down with a slingshot. I wouldn't give her a single chance to sneak any wild game. Even the ornamental fish in her palace were scooped out by my men overnight. Day 1. Sun Yenshu was still playing the zither in the courtyard, drinking the dew collected by her maids, looking like a picture of serenity. Day 2. The music stopped. I heard she plucked all the peonies in the courtyard bald, chewing on the raw petals. Day 3. I took my entourage to visit her. Sun Yenshu was lying on the couch, her face sallow. With her stomach sunken from hunger, her white gauze dress looked even more ethereal. Seeing me enter, she struggled to get up and keep up the act. Sister, you're here. My spirit was just wandering the great void. Wandering the great void? I picked up a freshly peeled grape and dangled it before her eyes. Sister, you're amazing. Then I'll just eat these grapes myself. Her eyes followed the grape as it moved, and her throat made a loud gulping sound. Right in front of her, I slowly and deliberately finished the whole plate of grapes. Then I had a spicy hot pot set up on the table. The aroma drifted into her nose with the wind. The veins on Sun Yenshu's hands bulged as she gripped the sheets. She nearly clawed through the wood with her nails. Oh dear. I forgot sister can't stand these vulgar smells. I waved my hand to have the feast removed. Before leaving, I left her with one last word. Tomorrow is the great sacrifice to heaven. As a goddess, you must accompany the emperor to pray for blessings. The entire court will be there. Sister, you must hold on. Don't embarrass our harem. Sun Yenshu watched me leave. Her eyes filled with murderous intent. Could she be hating me for even taking the grapeskins away? The great sacrifice to heaven, the most important national ceremony. All officials kneel before the emperor, burning incense and offering prayers. The scene was solemn and grand. In the center of the altar sat a whole golden crispy roasted suckling pig. Having starved for 3 whole days, drinking only a few sips of dew, and chewing on 2 handfuls of peony petals, Sun Yenshu stood by my side, her body swaying unsteadily. Those big eyes that always pretended to be innocent were now staring fixedly at the roasted pig, with a green glint of hunger in them. Heroine was reading a long sacrificial text, praying for favorable weather for Great Liang. According to the rules, when it was time for the concubines to kneel and bow, Sun Yenshu lunged straight for the altar. Meat. Give me meat.
Sun Yenshu zhou.
Her cutesy voice was gone. She sounded as gruff as a butcher. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she grabbed the roasted pig and started gnawing on it. Crunch. The pig's ear was gone. Chomp. The pig's nose was gone. The jaws of the entire court nearly hit the floor. The text in Heroine's hand shook, nearly falling into the incense burner. His eyes widened, looking at the grease-covered, ferocious-looking goddess. Yenshu? What are you doing? The Minister of Rites was so angry his beard was trembling. Sacrilege. This is absolute sacrilege. This witch is disrupting the state and destroying the offerings. She must be executed, Your Majesty. The guards drew their swords to rush forward. Startled by the flash of the blades, Sun Yenshu snapped out of it slightly. She looked at her greasy hands, then at the murderous glares around her, and froze. She was finished. She tried to explain in a panic. Your Majesty. I didn't. Wait. I shouted, lifting my skirt as I walked up the steps, spreading my arms to block the guards. Stand down. Do not be rude to concubine Su. I turned around, gently wiping the grease from the corner of her mouth with a handkerchief. Then I faced the officials, my expression solemn and grave. Your Majesty, lords, you are all mistaken. How could concubine Su be a glutton? She is the goddess of the 9 heavens. She usually doesn't touch a single drop of mortal food. Why would she suddenly eat this greasy meat? This is our ancestors using her body to personally enjoy the offerings of Great Liang. Heroine blinked, seemingly trying to process this twisted logic. Enjoying it through her mouth? Exactly. I looked at her with absolute certainty, pointing my finger at Sun Yenshu. My sister must have felt the call of our ancestors. That's why she ignored the damage to her immortal body and forced herself to swallow this worldly, greasy meat. She did this for Your Majesty, and for the prosperity of the Great Liang dynasty. She's tasting the food on behalf of our ancestors. If Sun Yanxu denied it now, it would be seen as great disrespect, a capital offense. But if she's enjoying it for the ancestors, it's a meritorious deed, and she can maintain her celestial fairy persona. Sister is right. I did it to pray for blessings. She gritted her teeth so hard they nearly broke, forcing out a strained smile. I immediately bowed to Xiao Yuran. Your Majesty. Lady Su's sincerity is pure, enough to move the heavens and earth. Since the ancestors used her mouth to eat, then these offerings must be finished. Otherwise, it would be disrespectful to the ancestors, leaving the ritual incomplete. Xiao Yuran's awkward expression softened, and he even looked moved. So that's how it is. Nianxu, you've suffered. Once the ritual is complete, I shall promote you to noble lady. I picked up that plate with a beaming smile, a roasted suckling pig weighing at least 10 pounds, and shoved it right into Sun Yanxu's arms. Congratulations on your promotion, sister. Since this is for blessings, you mustn't stop. This whole pig represents the perfection and unity of Great Liang. Missing even one bite would be a disservice to our national fortune. Sun Yanxu was backed into a corner. With trembling hands, she tore off a piece of greasy pig skin and stuffed it into her mouth. She wanted to throw up. I gave a meaningful look to the nannies behind me. Quickly, serve noble lady Su her meal. Not a single drop of oil must go to waste. 2 nannies immediately stepped forward, flanking her on both sides to hold her up, and began serving her the roasted pig. Half an hour later, Sun Yanxu collapsed on the ground, her stomach bulging high, looking like she was 5 months pregnant. Nianxu, for my sake, you've sacrificed so much. Even your celestial aura has been tainted. Pass on my decree. She is to be rewarded. Xiao Yuran watched from the side, his eyes welling with tears. Sun Yanxu couldn't say a single word, fearing that if she opened her mouth, she'd vomit, and the nannies would just stuff it back in, by framing it as an ancestral manifestation. I ensured she'd never want to see a roasted pig again. The ethereal fairy act was too hard to maintain, so she pivoted to the seductress route, vowing to use modern tricks to steal Xiao Yuran's soul. At the Mid-Autumn Palace banquet, a brass pole was suddenly erected in the hall. Sun Yanxu made her entrance, wearing a red dress cut into revealing shreds. With her arms and legs completely exposed, the fabric tightly hugged her curvaceous figure. Under the horrified gazes of the crowd, she ran barefoot toward the brass pole. Her body was as supple as a snake. To the beat of rapid drums, she twisted wildly, grinding and arching her back. This raw, wild visual impact ignited a fire in Xiao Yuran's eyes. His Adam's apple bobbed, his eyes glued to Sun Yanxu, specifically her fair legs flying around the pole. Seeing the emperor was mesmerized, Sun Yanxu decided to use her ultimate move. She gave a sudden leap, hanging upside down on the brass pole, and performed a mid-air split. Hanging there, she blew a seductive kiss to Xiao Yuran. Just as Xiao Yuran was about to lose his self-control, I set down my teacup. Amidst the outcries of indecency, I suddenly stood up, rushed to the center of the hall, and fell to my knees before Sun Yanxu with a thud. Oh heavens! Is this truly the legendary? When I looked up again, my eyes were filled with tears, and my voice trembled. Your Majesty, lords and ministers, you have all misunderstood my sister. You think she's dancing. You think she's seducing the sovereign. Wrong. You couldn't be more wrong. Xiao Yuran was stunned. Then what is she doing? I turned around, pointing at the brass pole with a solemn face. Sister is using her delicate skin to grind frantically against this rough brass pole. Your Majesty, look, the insides of her thighs are rubbed raw. Sister is performing a long-lost ancient ritual, grinding the pillar to pray to heaven. Xiao Yuran was bewildered. Indeed. I spoke with an air of reverence. To seek prosperity for the nation, the goddess of the 9 heavens willingly offered her own flesh as a sacrifice. Sister shed her clothes to face the heavens with total sincerity. Her grinding and twisting on the pole is not to please men, but to take your Majesty's sins upon herself and to suffer for the people of Great Liang. With every grind, she grinds away a portion of Great Liang's misfortune. The lust in Xiao Yuran's eyes vanished instantly, replaced by reverence and pity for the goddess. Sun Yenshu, still hanging on the pole, was completely dumbfounded. She wanted to argue, but admitting she was seducing him would be debauchery in the palace, punishable by being drowned in a pig basket. But if she admitted it was a prayer ritual, once she's labeled a goddess, how could she possibly sleep with the emperor tonight? While she was hesitating, I took the lead and shouted, "We thank the goddess for grinding the pillar to pray for us." The officials and concubines immediately knelt in unison, shouting together, "The goddess is truly righteous." Sun Yenshu was stuck between a rock and a hard place, her face turning green with frustration. Xiao Yuran strode forward, his face full of concern. "Nianshu, come down quickly. My heart aches for you. You mustn't." I stopped him, looking dead serious. "Your Majesty, once the ritual has begun, it must never be stopped halfway. Otherwise we will face divine wrath and a backlash against the national fortune." As soon as he heard backlash against the national fortune, Xiao Yuran immediately pulled his hand back. I looked at Sun Yenshu with a gentle, graceful smile. Since sister has such a grand wish, she must naturally grind thoroughly. By my order as the empress, let the music continue. Keep dancing. Let the goddess continue to pray for the nation. Xiao Yuran was deeply moved and immediately issued a decree. No one is to disturb the goddess's prayer. Noble Lady Su's prayer for the country is truly touching. Pass on my decree. From this day, she is promoted to concubine Su and granted 1,000 taels of gold. Hearing the title concubine Su, the dying Sun Yenshu, still hanging on the pole, suddenly had her eyes light up. The stirring music started again. Under the admiring gazes of the civil and military officials, the newly promoted concubine Su acted like she'd had a shot of adrenaline, with tears of emotion flowing. She twisted even more frantically, flying up and down the pole, grinding away with incredible vigor. I sat back in my seat, leisurely peeled a grape, and popped it into my mouth. I felt incredibly refreshed. Trying to fight me? I'll kill you with praise, without even getting my hands dirty. After polishing that pole all night, Sun Yenshu lost several layers of skin on her inner thighs. She had to be carried back to the Emerald Palace. That night, she ordered every cylindrical object in her palace thrown out, not even sparing the jade pestle for grinding medicine. But I have to say, the vitality of a transmigrated girl is like an unkillable cockroach. While recovering from her injuries, she reflected on her mistakes and decided to abandon the physical route, switching to talent for a total crackdown. For a transmigrated girl, reciting the 300 Tang poem is a basic skill. Any single poem she pulls out would shock the entire audience and wash away her previous humiliations. She claimed that, after her pole-grinding prayer, the god of literature was moved by her sincerity and gave her a fountain of literary talent to bless the cultural fortune of Great Liang. Xiao Yuran, being a man who appreciated the arts, heard the goddess was going to revitalize the literary world, and immediately set up a banquet in the imperial garden for her to showcase her skills in public. "Greetings, noble consort sister." Sun Yenshu was dressed in elegant green, holding a folding fan, looking every bit the refined scholar. "I must thank you for your help that day. If you hadn't insisted I finish grinding that pole, how could my sincerity have reached the heavens? Now that I've been enlightened by the god of literature, I finally understand the beauty of the written word. I've written a poem today, dedicated to the emperor and my sister." She swept a look of disdain over me, the meaning of which was clear. "You local bumpkin, do you even know what a masterpiece is?" I sat to the side, cracking melon seeds, watching her with a smile. "Very well. Why don't you recite it, little sister, and let us all be enlightened?" Sun Yenshu walked to the center of the courtyard, cleared her throat, looked up at the sky, and conjured up an air of profound melancholy. "When will the moon be clear and bright?" With a cup of wine in my hand, I asked the blue sky. I do not know what season it would be in the heavens on this night. As she recited with cadence and emotion, the shuidiao echoed through the imperial garden. I have to admit, this poem is truly a masterpiece. The ministers gaped in awe, and the concubines were completely spellbound. Xiao Yuran was so excited he stood up, his eyes filled with adoration. "Good. What a line. May we all be blessed with longevity. Though miles apart, we share the beauty of the moon. Nianshu. Did you really write this? Su Nianshu didn't blush or skip a beat. Bowing slightly. Your Majesty. It was indeed your humble servant who, gazing at the moon last night, was moved by inspiration and penned this clumsy verse off the cuff. A genius. She is truly the star of literature reborn. Look, Noble Consort. With talent like Nianshu's, she is truly the greatest talent of our age. Heroine was overjoyed. I spat out a melon seed shell and clapped my hands. Your Majesty, this is indeed a fine poem. Breathtakingly brilliant. Flawless. Su Nianshu lifted her chin triumphantly. However, I changed my tone, turning to beckon the palace maids outside. Go. Bring me that box from my study that I used to prop up the table leg. Soon. The maid brought the box, and I fished out a yellowed book from inside. I flipped the book to the 3rd page and handed it to Heroine. Your Majesty, take a look at this. Heroine took it suspiciously, but after just one glance, his expression changed instantly. Heroine's fingers pressed hard against the yellowed page. The pages were yellowed, the ink was aged. Didn't look at all like a freshly printed forgery. The book clearly had Shuediaogeta printed on it. Every word and phrase, exactly matching what Su Nianshu had just recited. Your Majesty, this is strange. I stood to the side, pointing at the words on the page and saying loudly, this poem is titled Shuediaogeta. And the book clearly states in black and white that the author is Su Dongpa. How is it that in concubine Su's mouth, it became something she wrote off the cuff while gazing at the moon last night? Su Nianshu stood below the dais, her previously triumphant face freezing, her eyes darting around wildly.
Impossible.
This is absolutely impossible. This is a fictional dynasty. There is no Song dynasty in history. So where would a Su Dongpa come from? Before she could collect her thoughts, Heroine had already looked up. His gaze was no longer one of admiration and obsession, but the cold scrutiny of an emperor.
Concubine Su.
You just said that you were moved by the moon last night to write this. Su Nianshu fell to her knees with a thud, tears welling up instantly, looking as if she had been deeply wronged. Your Majesty, I am innocent. There are countless words in this world, and it is common for inspiration to coincide. I have lived deep in the inner chambers, and I did not know there was a Mr. Su in this world. Perhaps I shared a spiritual connection with this predecessor. A meeting of souls in a dream, which is why I wrote such similar lines. This tactic of retreating to advance was used quite well. After all, no one can prove that two minds cannot come up with the same sentence. As long as Heroine's heart softened, this could turn into a literary romance that transcended time and space. Subconsciously, he did not want to believe that the woman he favored was a fraud. Noble Consort, Heroine closed the book, his tone carrying a hint of wanting to smooth things over. The world is vast, and anything can happen. Perhaps this really is just a coincidence. I saw Heroine's wavering. Men. I give you a way out and you don't take it. You'd rather wait until your face is slapped swollen, right? I smiled and poured Heroine a cup of tea, casually turning the page of the book and spreading it out before him. Your Majesty is right. I am also a lover of talent. Since my sister's talent is so exceptional, one poem is hardly enough to satisfy us. I turned to look at Su Nianshu, who was kneeling on the ground, my eyes filled with starry-eyed admiration. The last one was too melancholy. Why doesn't sister compose something more bold and unrestrained? It would let His Majesty and the ministers see that you are not only capable of sorrow, but also possess a grand spirit in your heart. A flash of light appeared in Su Nianshu's eyes. Bold and unrestrained? She was just worrying about how to make a comeback. Since Shuediaogeta was a collision, she would bring out an eternal masterpiece to completely stun this local emperor. She didn't believe that this tattered book would have this one too. Su Nianshu stood up from the ground, straightened her skirt, and regained her arrogant, talented woman persona. since my sister wants to hear it, then I shall make a fool of myself." She stood with her hands behind her back, gazing at the distant rockery and water, and centered her energy. The great river flows east, washing away the heroes of the ages. This line, with its spirit that could swallow mountains and rivers, stunned the ministers present once again, and they cheered loudly. I reached out my finger and tapped the book spread out before Xiao Yuran. Xiao Yuran followed my fingertip, and the hand holding the tea trembled violently. Sun Yenshu below was still reciting passionately, even adding gestures, full of vigor and spirit. West of the old fortress, people say, it is the red cliff of Zhou Yu of the Three Kingdoms. Xiao Yuran's gaze followed my finger, moving down mechanically. Sun Yenshu's voice was high and clear, as if she could already see herself as the empress, with all the people bowing to her. Jagged rocks pierce the sky. Startling waves crash against the shore, rolling up 1,000 piles of snow. Xiao Yuran's breathing began to quicken, and his face began to twitch. I feigned surprise and covered my lips, adding a quiet jab. "Oh my, Your Majesty, this Mr. Su is truly interesting." The layout and phrasing in the book are not even a fraction different from Sister's pauses. This is no coincidence. This is clearly Sun Yenshu reading directly from the book. When Sun Yenshu finished the last line, "A libation to the moon on the river," she looked at Xiao Yuran with great anticipation, waiting for applause and rewards. However, what greeted her was a teacup flying straight at her. Crash. The teacup shattered at Sun Yenshu's feet, and the scalding tea splashed all over her skirt. "You wretched thing." Xiao Yuran took that collection of Su Dongpa's poems and smashed it hard into Sun Yenshu's face. "Do you take me for a fool? Huh, a spiritual connection too? A meeting of souls in a dream too? Are you going to tell me next that you even dreamed of the punctuation marks in Mr. Su's book?" Sun Yenshu was stunned by the blow. She tremblingly picked up the book, opened it. Nian Nu Jiao, Reminiscence at Red Cliff, flipped again. Dink Fen Bu, her hands shaking like a sieve, flipped again. Zheyang Kengzi, with the cover clearly stating, Collection of Su Dongpa's poems. No. How is this possible? Sun Yenshu collapsed to the ground, looking at me as if I were a ghost. "Who are you? Where did this book come from?" She finally realized that in this world, she was not the only transmigrator. I walked slowly toward her, as the surrounding guards rushed up to drag her away. I waved my hand to signal them to wait, and bent down. I leaned in and whispered in her ear, softly and gently, "Is being a transmigrator that big of a deal? You're just a dropout who slipped through the cracks of the 9-year compulsory education. You memorize a few poems from a textbook, and suddenly you think you're some great literary talent?" Sun Yenshu's pupils constricted. She stared at me intensely. I smiled. A smile that was calm and elegant. "I'm so sorry, little sister. But when I first arrived 5 years ago, to make my first pot of gold, I took the 300 Tang and Song poems, compiled them into a collection, used the pen names Su Dongpa, Li Bai and Du Fu, and published them all. 1,000,000 copies were printed across the entire Daliang kingdom. Everyone in the capital has a copy." I patted her pale cheek. "I made 3 million taels of silver just from the royalties." "You call yourself a literary genius? Then I'm the godmother of the Daliang literary world. Of all the people you could have plagiarized, you chose the top-tier icons I made famous. That's what I call a total takedown." The light in Sun Yenshu's eyes completely faded. "Drag her away. For deceiving the emperor. And for stealing literary fame. She's not just stupid. She's malicious. Strip concubine Su of her rank. Demote her to the lowest servant class. Send her to the Shinjuku to scrub the latrines. And one more thing. Gag her. I don't want to hear her recite another single word." 2 eunuchs stepped forward. They skillfully gagged her and dragged her away. Sun Yenshu was like a dead dog, dragged across the pebble paths of the imperial garden. After dealing with that mess, Xiao Yuran rubbed his hands together awkwardly. He looked at me. "My dear consort, I didn't realize you collected such fine books. I never noticed it before. Are there other masterpieces in that collection?" I adjusted my hair, hiding my achievements and fame. Your Majesty is busy with 1,000 matters of state. These common street books naturally wouldn't catch your eye. But since Your Majesty likes them. I paused. A hint of mischief flashed in my eyes. I have a copy of Dream of the Red Chamber in my study. The full 120-chapter version. I'll bring it to Your Majesty to pass the time another day. Sun Yanxu still had some luck on her side. Just as she was demoted to scrubbing latrines, she started having morning sickness in the Shinjuku. Having been on the throne for years, Xiao Yuran, who was still desperate for an heir, heard the good news. He didn't even put his shoes on properly. Before rushing to bring her back to the Emerald Palace, he promoted her directly to consort. This time, Sun Yanxu had learned her lesson. She reflected on her mistakes. She couldn't mess around with those superficial arts anymore. She had to go for the hardcore stuff. So when she made her comeback, she brought 2 items as treasures to present. A dusty, crumbling brick and a piece of cloudy glass full of bubbles. Your Majesty, this is the divine mud I have painstakingly developed. It is as hard as iron and can build a great wall that lasts for 10,000 generations. And this is glass. Though it's a bit cloudy now. If you give me time to improve it, it will become crystal clear. Xiao Yuran extended a finger, poking the gray brick with disgust. My dear, why bring such filthy things? To offend my eyes? Your Majesty, this is science. This is an industrial miracle. I peeled a lychee, watching Xiao Yuran's "Are you crazy?" expression. I burst out laughing. Your Majesty, it's normal that you don't recognize this. After all, the palace only uses the finest goods. You've never seen such defective scraps. I turned and gave an order. Eunuch, bring the tea set I usually give to the servants. Let Consort Su open her eyes. Eunuch Wang suppressed a smile. He brought out a wooden box. Inside was a set of crystal-clear glass teaware. Its transparency was 100 times better than the cloudy lump Sun Yanxu held. I picked up a cup and waved it in front of Xiao Yuran. Your Majesty, look at the glass in Consort Su's hand again. Doesn't it look a bit familiar now? Xiao Yuran looked at the glass cup in my hand, then at the dirty, bubble-filled stone in Sun Yanxu's hand. Suddenly it clicked. Isn't this the glass we use for the palace windows? Why is hers so dark and dingy? It looks like it's been rolled in the mud. I giggled behind my hand. Little sister, in my family's glass factory. That's just burnt waste material. I didn't expect you to present it to His Majesty as a treasure. Sun Yanxu turned pale, clutching her glass tightly. Then, what about the divine mud? This is a miracle substance that can build city walls. That's just cement. Your Majesty, I said helplessly. 3 years ago, this is what I gave my father to build the Great Wall at the border. Except, I stood up and walked over to Sun Yanxu. I poked the brick with my finger. Crash. A corner of the brick collapsed. Gonsotsu, your formula ratio is wrong. This is a tofu dreg project. I shook my head, looking disappointed. This kind of reject isn't even strong enough for my backyard pigsty. And you wanted to use it to build the Great Wall? Are you trying to get my father's army of 400,000 killed? Or do you want the Xiongnu to die laughing at the foot of the wall? Xiao Yuran finally understood. Turned out Sun Yanxu hadn't invented anything new at all. She had just brought a pile of trash. Gonsotsu, your so-called painstaking research, was just turning the good things I use into waste. And then trying to fool me with them? Sun Yanxu was speechless. She was so anxious that tears started falling. The divine mud in her hand was crushed to pieces, crumbling into dust. No, it's not like that. This is science. I was a science student. It's just that the experimental conditions here are too primitive. Enough. Xiao Yuran waved his sleeve in disgust. Get back to your palace and take care of your pregnancy. If anything happens to my heir, I will hold you solely responsible. With a clang, the glass and mud that held Sun Yanxu's hopes of regaining favor were tossed into the trash by a eunuch. Sun Yanxu looked at the debris on the ground, standing there in a daze. The modern knowledge she was so proud of. In this world where I had already laid the groundwork, was not only worthless, but a total joke. How could she have known? I had long ago given the formulas for soap, glass, cement, and gunpowder to my business genius mother. Now more than half of the Dalian Kingdom's GDP was contributed by our Jiang family. Trying to compete with me on the tech tree? You clearly don't realize how much I've paid to win in this life. Sun Yinshu couldn't beat me in the harem. And she couldn't beat me in technology. She could only wait for an opportunity while pregnant. Then came the floods in the south. Refugees were everywhere. Reports flew into the imperial study like snowflakes. The court was in an uproar. When the news reached the harem, Sun Yinshu felt her chance had come. Carrying ginseng soup, Sun Yinshu burst into the study to offer her advice. Your Majesty, the key to water management is diversion, not damming. She spoke eloquently in the center of the hall, as if possessed by Zhuge Liang, and the refugees revolt because of hunger. The government shouldn't just hand out porridge. It's better to provide work for relief. To let the refugees build the dams, and the government provides the pay and food. This manages the water and settles the people. It was indeed a good method. It had been proven in history. When Xiao Yuan heard this, his furrowed brows relaxed. Wonderful. Simply wonderful. He stood up excitedly, slapping the table. Nianshu, this plan is truly a blessing for the country and the people. Why didn't I think of that? Sun Yinshu shot a provocative look at me as I sat nearby grinding ink. Noble Consort sister. This is a grand strategy for governing the country. A woman confined to the palace like you probably wouldn't understand. I put down the ink stick and wiped my hands. Work for relief. It is indeed a good method. I looked up, watching her with a half-smile. But sister, you're an educated person. The character for relief, Jun, has a shell, Bei, on the left. That represents money. Do you have any idea how many pennies are actually left in the national treasury?
Sun Yinshu Froger.
The state's affairs are naturally the responsibility of the Ministry of Revenue. I pulled out an abacus and started clicking away. Last year's war cost 3 million taels. Renovating the gardens cost 2 million. And buying you those rare treasures cost another 1 million. Your Majesty, the current national treasury is cleaner than my own face. There's no money to pay the workers. If you make starving refugees work for free, you're just asking for a rebellion. Xiao Yuan was stunned. Then, what should we do? We could just print money. Issue paper currency. What's a little inflation? As long as it circulates. I looked at her like she was an idiot. Print money? Printing money without gold or silver reserves. Do you want the Great Liang's copper coins to become worthless paper? Or do you want the price of rice to hit 1 gold tael per peck? If we actually did what you suggested, we wouldn't need the refugees to rebel. The people of the capital would tear you, the concubine ruining the country, into pieces first. I turned and bowed to Xiao Yuan. Your Majesty, don't worry about the flood control. My father has already paid out of his own pocket yesterday, transferring 500,000 share of grain from 3 neighboring provinces to the disaster area. Additionally, my mother's merchant fleet is buying up large quantities of cotton in the south, which is perfect for hiring those refugees. And delivered the final blow. It won't cost the treasury a single penny. That is what you call benefiting the country and the people. Xiao Yuan looked at me, his eyes shining with the realization of how good it feels to be kept. He took my hand. Looking deeply affectionate, the noble consort is truly my virtuous helper. With a wife like this, what more could a husband ask for? Sun Yinshu stumbled back 3 steps. She forgot. All political reform requires an economic foundation. And the economic foundation of Great Liang isn't surnamed Xiao, Zhang, which is my family. In this battle, Sun Yinshu lost everything. Even Xiao Yuan, who used to visit her belly every day, was too busy trying to figure out how to promote me.
Sun Yinshu panic.
She understood. As long as my father, who holds military power, and my mother, who is wealthier than the state, are still around, she will always be a clown. So she decided to take a desperate risk. After the morning court session, Sun Yenshu knelt in the center of the imperial study, holding a letter high in her hands. She was sobbing, every word filled with grief. Your Majesty, though I am in the harem, my heart is with the nation. I accidentally found this letter in the crevices of the rockery in the Imperial Garden. General Jiang is using his troops to threaten the throne, and is now even colluding with the enemy to betray the country. The letter states that he intends to offer the border defense maps to the Turks. The evidence is irrefutable. Please, Your Majesty, investigate this thoroughly. The letter was presented to Xiao Yuran. Xiao Yuran's expression changed. No matter how much he relied on the Jiang family's money, no matter how much he needed the Jiang family's troops, when it comes to the dragon throne he sits on, any emperor would want to kill. What a great Jiang family. What a loyal subject. Xiao Yuran slammed the letter onto his desk. Summon General Jiang. My father, Great Liang's General-in-Chief, Jiang Outyan, walked in with long strides in his military uniform. He glanced at Xiao Yuran, the look in his eyes like he was watching his own disappointing child. Your subject greets Your Majesty. I heard there's a letter saying I want to hand over the defense maps to the Turks? Xiao Yuran threw the letter in front of him. Jiang Outyan, see for yourself. The personal seal on the letter is yours. What else do you have to say? Sun Yenshu fanned the flames from the side. General, if you don't want people to know, you shouldn't have done it. This letter is written clearly that you are to meet with the Turkic envoy at Wangyue Slope. My father bent down, picked up the letter with 2 fingers, looked at it on the left, looked at it on the right, and then he laughed. A contemptuous laugh, the kind you give to an idiot. Your Majesty, did you forget? Your subject is illiterate. The imperial study fell into a dead silence. I can only write my own name, which I was forced to practice. When I had to sign a military pledge years ago, my father pointed at the characters on the letter, his loud voice shaking dust from the rafters. This letter has thousands of words, perfectly balanced and structured. The calligraphy is even better than the old scholars at the Hanlin Academy. If I could write something like this, would I have handed in a blank paper? During the military examinations, would I have been chased for 3 streets by my late father with a stick, calling me a blockhead? Xiao Yuran froze. Only then did he remember. General Jiang doesn't know a single character, and usually has a clerk write his memorials. My father continued to twist the knife, pointing at Sun Yenshu, and this woman says, the meeting place is Wangyue Slope. Sun Yenshu held her ground. That's right. The terrain there is hidden. Most suitable for hidden my foot. My father rudely interrupted her. Half a year ago, I paved Wangyue Slope with concrete to dry grain on. It's a bare patch of concrete. You could see a mouse running across it clearly. If I went there to meet someone, would I be tired of living? Or are the Turks going there to be sun-dried? My father stared at Sun Yenshu with wide eyes. Sun Yenshu's face turned from white to green, and then from green to purple. She had calculated everything, but she miscalculated the literacy level of a feudal general. And furthermore, I walked out from behind the screen.
Consort.
This stationery is only available in my palace in the entire capital. I just developed this last month, intending to give it to the Empress Dowager for copying Buddhist scriptures. It's not sold on the market at all. Did you bribe someone in my palace? Steal my paper? And forge this yourself? This series of critical hits completely crushed Sun Yenshu. Xiao Yuran looked at the paper, then at my innocent-looking father, and finally his gaze landed on the trembling Sun Yenshu. He had almost been used as a pawn by a woman to wrongly execute his own guardian and money back. Xiao Yuran was furious. You wretch! How dare you frame a loyal subject? Xiao Yuran kicked over the desk. Guards! Throw Sun Yenshu into the cold palace. If it weren't for the child in your womb, I would have executed you today. Sun Yanxu entered the cold palace. Her only hope now was the child in her womb. As long as the child is born, as long as it's a prince, I can rise in status through my son. This is the iron rule of palace dramas. She muttered crazily in the cold palace. 10 months of pregnancy, 1 day of labor. That night there was thunder and rain. I waited outside the delivery room, while Xiao Yuran paced anxiously under the corridor. After all, it was the only offspring he had had in years of his reign. Cry pierced the night sky. The midwife ran out stumbling, her expression strange.
Con.
Congratulations, Your Majesty, it's a little prince. Xiao Yuran was overjoyed. Ignoring the heavy rain, he rushed forward a few steps, reaching out to hold him. Good. I finally have an heir. The midwife, however, protected the child tightly, her head banging against the floor. Your Majesty, this child cannot be looked at. Presumptuous, Xiao Yuran snatched the baby away. He tore open the swaddling clothes. The baby had yellow hair and blue eyes, clearly not of Liang blood. Xiao Yuran stumbled back 3 steps in shock. I quickly added, "Oh my." I heard that before concubine Su entered the palace, she met a few merchants from the western regions. Could it be? Actually, this was a prenatal tonic I specially prepared for Sun Yanxu. A secret medicine from the western regions that can temporarily change an infant's hair and eye color at birth. It will return to normal in a few months, but in an era without DNA testing, this is considered ironclad proof. Xiao Yuran felt like he was wearing a green hat, glowing green with cuckoldry. People. He stormed into the delivery room and kicked Sun Yanxu, who had just given birth. How dare you taint the royal bloodline? I will have your entire clan executed. Sun Yanxu took one look at the baby and broke down too.
Impossible.
This is your child. I am a sole transmigrator. The original owner was from the Liang kingdom. How could I give birth to a mixed-race child? In her madness, she blurted out the truth. It's you who can't. Your sperm count is too low. I worked so hard to conceive this child. The child is the problem. Or perhaps it's your genetic mutation. The truth is, you're impotent. This shout was louder than the thunder outside the window. Xiao Yuran's greatest secret was exposed in public. He really is impotent. There have been no heirs in the harem for 3 years. Not just because I drugged him, but because his body was ruined during the succession wars years ago. Xiao Yuran's face twisted in rage. He drew a guard's sword. Kill. Kill them all. Everyone present today. Leave no one alive. He wants to silence everyone. He's even going to kill me. I sighed. Your Majesty, I was going to save you some face. I clapped my hands. Outside the door, my father led the Jiang family army charging in. Behind him was a sea of soldiers. They had already taken control of the entire palace. The emperor has suffered a sudden mental breakdown, intending to slaughter loyal subjects. For the sake of the Liang kingdom, I asked the emperor to abdicate and step down. Xiao Yuran was placed under house arrest. Publicly, it was announced he had fallen ill. The empress accompanied him to recuperate. The empress dowager also tactfully requested to retire to the imperial mausoleum to pray for the late emperor for the rest of her life. The yellow-haired child was sent away. Sun Yanxu suffered a postpartum hemorrhage, and combined with the massive mental shock, she went completely insane. Every day in the cold palace, she would pole dance against the wall, muttering to herself, I am the heroine. I am a transmigrator. I am here to make a comeback. And I, holding a baby adopted from the royal clan, sat on the phoenix throne next to the dragon throne. The baby was only 3 years old, the perfect age to control. My father is the regent. I am the empress dowager ruling from behind the curtain. This is the ultimate satisfying ending for a palace drama. What love and romance! What petty jealousy! Only the power in one's hands is the most real. 1 year later, I went to visit Sun Yanxu once. She was skin and bones, gnawing on rotten vegetable leaves on the floor. Seeing me in my magnificent phoenix robes, a flash of clarity crossed her eyes. Jiang Shuang. Why? I couldn't defeat you. I have 5,000 years of wisdom. I have modern technology. I have the protagonist's halo. I tossed her a hot meat bun. Because you're a fool. You think just because you transmigrated, you're the protagonist? You think the ancients are all idiots? This is a man-eating feudal society. It's not your Mary Sue playground. Also, I smiled. The palace drama script you read must have been a pirated copy. Real palace intrigue never relies on men. It relies on this. Pointed to my head. Then pointed to the invisible family power behind me. Sun Yinshu grabbed the bun and devoured it ravenously, eating and crying at the same time. Think. This might have been the most delicious meal she'd ever had in her life. Walking out of the cold palace, the sun was bright. I stretched. I want hot pot tonight. Make it extra spicy. Yes, Your Majesty. Your Majesty Empress Dowager.